Hello everyone and welcome back to Introducing the Wolves. We've been away for a few months, but we hope you're as excited to watch as we are to be recording again. My name's Ben Royle and today I'm joined by Steve Ward, Rob Clayton and Pat Cox. Gentlemen, how are we?
Good.
Pretty good.
So before we get started with the interview, we're just going to get into our usual icebreaker. So it's just a teammates version. They are copied from Luke Brown's interview from a few months back. Always late.
Bobby Cole.
Steve?
I won't say always late, but he's been famously late a few times. Alex Wyatt.
Pat?
I think on a Tuesday night, it's got to be Mick Donoghue.
Yeah. Biggest moaner, same order, Rob.
Ooh. That's a tough one. There's a big competition there, isn't there? I'm gonna have to go Ben Bliss.
I'd probably say me. I'm moaning about a lot of things. So
I think it's got to be Phil Taylor.
As a Liverpool fan up until this year, he's had a lot to moan about.
yeah, well, the last couple of years.
And who's the most vain?
Most vain. Might be choosing the same person again here. I'm going to say Bobby Cole, only because I was sat next to him once and he was zooming in on a picture of himself saying my arms look really good on that photo. It's a sentence I've never heard before.
Most vain. From recent photographs, I would say Jake Taylor.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
Always taking a picture of himself in a toilet for some reason.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to go close to home. I'm going to say Aidan Cox.
I think he was relishing the opportunity to take a selfie every week for November.
Yeah.
So next, worst dressed, Rob.
Purely for what he was wearing when a few of us went to Berlin a few years ago, Jordan turned up dressed like Usher. To
In a wetsuit.
Yeah.
I would have to agree. Jordan takes some beating by anybody. If you've ever seen his red and black strides that he went to town in a few weeks back, months back maybe now. I think there's a picture on one of the chats, isn't there? I'm sure there is, Ben.
Yeah, it's always something rogue with Jordan. I mean, I'm going to jump in and say that Finn Hayward's up there as well.
Oh, yeah, Finn Hayward.
Hollister, every day.
And when he had his mullet as well.
Yeah, something Hollister every single day.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pat, you go.
I'm going to go close to home with this one as well. If anybody saw my shirt on that outdoor session that we had in about August, I think I'd take the prize. I don't think you were there, Rob, to witness it.
I can't say I know what shirt you're on about.
I can't remember if you were there, Ben, or not, but it's a good one.
You can either answer this honestly or put a bit of a twist on it in who thinks they are, but who's the biggest hard man?
Is that in reality or in their own head?
Either, whichever you want to go for.
I'm going to go with the one man riot that is Alex Wyatt. I didn't mean that to rhyme, but yeah,
I would say one of the hardest players who I would consider a hard man, Chris Clark.
Oh.
Yeah,
he's tough. If you're playing against him, he's hard work.
Yeah, I think I'd I'd have to agree with both of those, actually. I think you've got a real hard man and then not such a real hard man, but I'll let you choose which one is which.
And then who's the worst dancer?
I know I'm the best. I don't know. I went to Belfast a few years ago, and Mick wasn't really getting it done, to be quite honest. Mick Donaghy, like he was playing up to the nickname Grandad, from what I could see.
I don't know. I don't think any of us really cut that big a dash on the dance floor. There's some good videos of H dancing.
Oh yeah,
Talking
Did you see that
about.
one that came up last week from like 6 years ago?
Yeah, so
they would get a mention as well. In there.
yeah, Finn,
yeah,
probably
Finn
Finn
was-
actually. Yeah, he's quite
I
a
go
terrible
Finn.
dancer.
Yeah, loves the rescue room tables, which I don't think his parents have seen. So if they are watching this, they can enjoy it.
Let's tweet it out.
Yeah.
I don't think I've really seen anybody from the club dance, but just a bit of a shot in the dark. I'm guessing that Rich Bennett's not going to be the greatest dancer.
No.
I mean, Mick Donaghy could actually from was it last year's Christmas party where he fell over the back of the
Oh yeah, I missed that. Yeah.
the handrail. Basically at Roxy in the race section, he was sat on the handrail. We were stood on the tables, and he just leaned back and went straight over the top. I think that was his attempt at dancing there.
And then the final one, who's most likely to be a future coach?
Ooh. Well, I guess saying Reece is quite obvious, and he already does coach. Future coach. Well, given how much he held up training the other week, I'm going to say Joe Howie with his in-depth description of what he wanted the D to do. Yeah, I'm going to go with Joe Howie, future coach.
I would probably go with, if I was going with one of the juniors, I think I'd go with Corey.
So I'd say it's somebody that's doing a bit of coaching already, but I think he's got a big future in it. Is Cookie?
Yeah, that's a good shout. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to argue with any of those, to be fair. No, very good. So this week's interview, as you three will know, and you've got the T-shirts to represent it, is about the future plans for the Nottingham ball hockey rink. So to begin, what's the idea behind establishing a purpose-built rink, and how's it come to fruition?
Yeah, so I think it's been a long old aspiration of the club, dating back for quite a number of years, to get our own venue, because I think, I'm sure there are other ball hockey clubs who feel like this. We're kind of limited by the capacity of the venues that we use sometimes. I think we put on a lot of ball hockey, a lot of training, but we'd probably put on more, I think, if we had greater access to venues. So I think, it's been a long old aspiration of the club to do that. But I think really we always thought there were two component parts to it, the building and the rink to put in it. And I think we always felt that while we had neither of those two, we were a long way from it. So I think we felt that we made quite a big stride forward when we were able to acquire the barrier surround system from the arena when they upgraded. So I think the idea behind it really is if we want to keep growing the club and we want to continue to produce players who are capable of going and playing on the biggest stage, on the proper size surface, 60 by 30 surface, that, a venue that is something like that would be a massive boost to our club and probably ball hockey in Nottingham and ball hockey in, the wider region and also the UK, because with my Warlock UK hat on, you know, getting venues is as much of an issue for us as it is for clubs. You know, we play second fiddle to all sorts of sports, particularly roller, where it's a venue that is predominantly for roller. So yeah, it's to really help drive the club and the sport forward in this area.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's just having a purpose-built venue, which is mainly for ball, could only do the whole country good. But you know, from a personal point of view, again, like Rob says, just push our club forward as well. But also, you know, bring on this next generation, this next wave of players, and get them used to playing on these big surfaces that you've experienced when you've gone out to the Worlds. You know, it takes a little bit of adapting to when you've come from a rectangle sports hall to what is a purpose-built rink where you've got teams just rimming it round from one side to the other, all the way around the back, and just the size and the space you've got available when playing. So, you know, it's got to benefit everybody really eventually.
I completely agree. So Pat, if you want to touch on what is currently in place, Rob's already mentioned it with the board system, and also what's required going forward.
Yeah, so obviously when the opportunity to buy the board system came up, Rob was sort of straight down there and got involved and made sure that we were able to secure that. So, you know, that's a huge piece of the puzzle, really, having that in place. But obviously we now need to find the venue to set that up. So it's difficult because you've got to find a big building, and it's got to be it's got to be a building that's got a roof that's supported with it without any beams coming down the middle. So you know, it's a specific type of building we're looking for. And obviously, as you can probably imagine, the price tag that comes along with these types of premises will be pretty hefty. You know, we running into a problem really where there's a lot of sort of industrial type buildings, but you know they're trying to, you know, the people who own these buildings, they're trying to let them out to sort of commercial interests, and you know they're wanting to charge commercial rates, which, you know, it's pretty excessive really. So so that's the next challenge really, is to find a suitable venue that's within the price range that we can manage. So that's going to come from, you know, obviously money that we can raise through running events at the venue. So, you know, that's the next step. I mean, obviously, think everything everywhere has slowed down a little bit just recently, obviously with the COVID issue. You know, but we're not sure how that's going to affect us, whether that's going to actually potentially be a bit of a blessing in disguise, because there may be buildings out there that you know that become available, and that people may change their viewpoint in terms of you know what they want to let the buildings out for. There has, you know, been a couple of instances where we've had a little bit of a resistance from people who are either letting the buildings, or people who are letting or leasing adjacent buildings. You know, they're a bit reluctant because of the type of service that we're going to be running. But maybe people will change their viewpoint a little bit as we come out of COVID, hopefully before too long. So we're keeping our eyes open. We're looking for that right venue. We're sure it will come soon. It's not just the building as well. It's about the location really. It's got to be somewhere that's going to be accessible for people. You know, so that people, you know, from the club are able to manage to get there and use it. So we'd like it to be close to home, but obviously it's got to be something that's suitable for people coming in from out of area. You know, if we are going to be running regional or national tournaments.
No, that's brilliant. I think there's challenges in there that I certainly haven't considered. Sounds very
Yeah,
interesting.
well, me and Rob have viewed quite a few places, and like Pat says, there's a lot of limitations, whether that be that it's not a single span building, or we've had landlords that just refuse to have any sort of sports activity in their property, or they're saying that they don't want it because of the neighbours and things like that, and excessive parking. But it is a challenge, and we're looking all the time and constantly looking through, and there's more and more warehousing coming on. But problem is with warehouses, it's not just the footprint where they look at what they can get in a building. They're also looking at the height, so they can have shelving and stack everything up. So you might have the right size footprint, but their price for renting that is 5 times, because they're saying you can get 5 meters up and things like that. So
as opposed to meter, it's 2D square meterage. Yeah, I think as Pat said, I think in the post-COVID world we might see a bit of movement on that, to be honest, because the economic climate is going to mean that, unfortunately, some businesses are not going to make it through, which is a terrible thing. But I think it means, from a availability of building point of view, it might actually provide us with a few opportunities. One thing I did want to say, Ben, actually, is when we talked about how it had come about, big shout really to Simon Bell, who works at the Ice Centre and the Arena, who tipped us off that they were looking to sell off the boards, and also to the Arena as well for wanting to do a deal with us, because I think they had all sorts of offers to take bits of it as spare parts, but they very much wanted to sell it as a job lot, and they wanted to sell it somewhere locally where it could do some good. So we could quite easily have missed out on that opportunity without even knowing about it, or being given an opportunity to try and buy it, without Simon giving us the lead and without the Arena wanting to do something good with it. So I just wanted to make sure I said that.
Oh, brilliant. What was the process like acquiring the boards, and sort of the heavy lifting involved in that?
The buy-in was fairly straightforward.
Relatively simple.
That was the simple, as long as you kind of got the funds to pay for it. Getting it out of there. I mean, they palletized it for us, and then again, I mean, I think with a lot of sports clubs, you really do rely sometimes on goodwill and the people that you have contacts with within the club, And so Andy Bolstridge works for a haulage company who had a suitable vehicle with a high ab on it that could pick it up and transport it for us. So, again, thanks to a member of the Wolves family who was able to help us out on that, because that could have added a lot to the cost of all of this. So
I've done that twice for us as well. As initial storage facilities, they moved premises because their landlord wants to build properties on what they got, and we've had to move it since the first move. So he's helped us out a couple of times, and without that, we just wouldn't be able to do anything really without somebody like Andy.
And we got a good number of volunteers to help us do that as well. So the club rallied around, because I think everybody sees the potential for this.
Yeah, definitely. Was that not the photo of Bobby where he was talking about his arms?
No, that's
arms?
just another picture.
So I think
Bobby and his arms.
I think he said to me about that photo before. His arms looked really good in it.
I mean, he looked at home, didn't he, on top of that steel girder?
I mean, I must admit, on that day, Jordan was never happier than sitting alongside Andy in the cab of a lorry.
Oh. I mean, I think on that day, the amount of Bob the Builder episodes that Jordan has consumed over the years finally had a benefit.
So reverting back a bit, and Steve, you have already touched on it, but would you want to go into more detail about how this can benefit the club and the facilities that we'd be able to establish? And sort of
I mean, once we get that established somewhere. The benefits are just ongoing, really, because instead of having to work our training schedules for the juniors and the seniors around the venue itself and what other clubs have got sports halls hired out for, we could book our venues first. So, you know, junior training wouldn't have to forced to be on a Sunday. It could be a Friday, or it could be a Saturday morning,
or twice as long.
We could start moving it around. Time scales could be totally different. All of these things can be easier. Senior training, you could have, you know, virtually every night, instead of having to split it up Tuesdays and Fridays. So you could have ladies, you know, senior men, and so on, really, all the way through. It really opens up endless possibilities. Plus, once we've got it of that size, you could have 2 or 3 junior sessions on one rink, cross court. You know, there's all sorts of things. Or you could have a goalie class at one end, while at the other end they're playing cross court and doing that sort of thing. So there's lots of different things we could do there just for the club. But then again, for the wider ball hockey community, it'd be a good venue for national finals and that sort of thing, GB camps and so on. It just works on every level then.
I think also, you know, we're not looking to force anybody to come and use the building, but, you know, the wider Nottingham ball hockey community, if they wanted to use it, I mean, they all have to play the same games with availability that we do, you know. So we wouldn't be this as a Wolves only venue. We'd be keen to get any organisation in their training, and, you know, fair enough. Maybe some of the clubs in Notts are a little bit more at the extremities of the county, and, you know, their catchment area players reflects that. So maybe it wouldn't be for them, dependent on location, and that's understandable. But we'd want to certainly get other clubs on board if they were wanting to look at their venue options, because I think, you know, playing on the bigger surface benefits everybody.
Even those clubs, you know, even if they came along, you know, once a month, it's got to benefit them playing on that bigger surface. Because if you are, you know, once we get it up and running, and we are lucky enough to get things like national finals being in the centre of the country, they're potentially going to have to play on it anyway. So why wouldn't you take the opportunity to have a go on it? So,
yeah, I think we can be a lot more flexible with clubs. You know, if there was, for instance, if there were 2 clubs that were a little bit further away, they wanted to have a shared agreement where one came one week and one came the next, or whatever, you know, we'd be able to have that flexibility, you know. So, you know, I think we would try and make other clubs as welcome as we possibly could, you know, just so that everybody can benefit from the, you know, the purpose-built rink. I think one of the other benefits that we'd have by having our own venue is that any equipment and stuff like that we need to store there, we know we can do that securely and safely. You know, we wouldn't be having, you know, some of the sports halls and things that we use, you know, there's all sorts of people in and out of those buildings all the time. You know, sometimes the equipment, you know, it gets knocked about and messed about, and, you know, the amount of times that we will turn up at a venue and our goals are in the back of the storeroom, and there's all sorts of rubbish and other people's kit and everything in front of it, and it takes you 20 minutes to get the stuff out. You know, we wouldn't run into those problems. It'd be set up and ready to go, you know, all the time. We'd know that the equipment was going to be in good nick because we'd be keeping an eye on it, keeping it maintained. You know, having our own venue means that we can, you know, we can explore other options. You know, if there's space to have a small gym area or something like that, you know, or a space to do some off-court stuff as well. You know, we've recently kind of expanded a little bit in terms of where the club's going in terms of doing a little bit of off-court stuff as well, some of the exercise stuff. You know, if we can have a venue that supports that as well, that's only going to benefit everybody who's coming to use it. So And then there's things that, you know, there's possibilities there for having some sort of catering services where we can turn a little bit of profit to reinvest into the facility.
That's brilliant. Steve, how much do your ears perk up at the thought of a gym next to the rink?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd like that. I'd certainly like some off-court area as well, just to bring some of the young guys on along. And we've got experience. We've got guys in the club who do a lot of weight training and gym training. You know, Matt and Bobby both do a lot. They're guys getting experience off them in the gym to some of the younger guys can only benefit them. And it gives them that overall well-being. You're there at the club, aren't you? So, for example, if you're going to go training, why not go an hour earlier, do a bit of gym work, and then do your training? It can only benefit you as a player, as an individual, in your own health and well-being. So, yeah, I'd be really up for that.
And I think also it's about getting some sort of value out of every square metre you've got, you know, deriving some sort of value or income from it, you know. So Pat mentioned, you know, maybe we'd have, you know, anything between vending machines through to full-on catering, depending on what's available and what the demand is. You want to get something out of every nook and cranny of that building. You want it really to be earning so you can plough it back into the ball hockey. But I think also the more there is there, the more, you know, it doesn't just become somewhere that you turn up for an hour training and then go again. You know, it's possibly a bit more, it feels a bit more like, you know, venue to play at and clubhouse and so on and so forth. You know, it's somewhere that you might come along and spend 3 to 4 hours as opposed to, you know, 1 hour, get showered, get gone, you know.
Yeah, going back to things like when I was playing football, you know, I used to play for teams that had clubhouses and basically a social club, and players would turn up on, you know, days that they wasn't training or they wasn't playing or the reserves were playing, and they turn up, relax and just watch the game or whatever. But it's like a social venue and a social event for people to go there and spend time there, which again can only benefit everybody. They get other players get experience of senior players, or you can use the gym, like I was saying before. I was just thinking sauna would be a good one, like a sauna.
I think you've touched on a good point there as well, actually, Steve. The fact that if you've got your own venue and you're able to create a viewing area, you know, that just adds something that you don't get in some of the small sports halls.
Yeah.
You know, where you're standing in if you are watching, you know, you've got a capacity of about 6. You're standing in the corner behind an upturned bench, or you're standing outside in the car park looking through the fire exit. You know, it's not great, is it? But if you've got a venue where even if it just means that you've got people that are able to stand along the length of the boards on the outside looking through the glass, you know, you can get 50 people, 60 people there. Mm-hmm. You know, they're able to see the sport. The people who are playing have got a bit of support there for them. You know, when the kids are playing, you know, the parents are able to, you know, get a proper look at what's going on. And potentially you bring people in who are new to the sport, you know, and they come along and have a look, and, you know, it sparks some interest. So having a venue where people can actually properly see the sport being played, I think is, you know, it's really good for the sport in general. I mean, if you think about the venues where that is possible, some of the bigger venues that we use, you know, the atmosphere there is so much better.
Yeah.
So we'd like to recreate that and maybe go one step further if we can. I
agree, and I think if you look at, I mean, Southglade from a training point of view, because it's a big hall, I do feel it's worked well for us over the years. You know, it's a fairly big surface, and I think it's supported our players well. Not as well as a full-size rink, but it's supported our players well because it is big. But as Pat mentions, as good as it might be from a training point of view, try and play a game there, Pat's about right. It's capacity of about 6 people to watch. You know, not at all helpful. But I think also, you know, you look at trying to put out, say if you wanted to put out a live stream of the game, you know, I mean, what would your chances be of doing that from somewhere like Southglade, aside from somebody standing in the corner with a phone? You know, that might well serve the purpose, you know, and the people who can't get there, who really want to know what's going on, and be able to see it and stay up to date with the result. But we get our own venue, it's likely we'll be able to do something far more comprehensive with that. And if, you know, we do want to stream anything, then it's going to be of far better quality, because we're going to have to be permanently set up, and the place will be of a size that's a bit more conducive, I think.
No, that's perfect. And sort of building on from that, in terms of the streaming side of it, why have we looked to create a social media presence now, and what was the thinking behind that?
Well, I think you know, we've been toiling away. Getting the rink barrier in the first place was a big hurdle, and I think inevitably we kind of got it and then exhaled for a while. It's kind of like stage 1, brilliant. But I think that sort of created a little bit of inertia on our part, and I think obviously COVID now has kind of prolonged that a little bit. And I think somebody said to me the other day, well, you've not got the rink. Why have you got a name? Why would you have a social media presence? But I think we need to create some publicity around this. We need to create a bit of a buzz around it. We need to make sure people know what it is that we intend to do. So I think, you know, we almost need to start acting like it's a thing before it is. And I think we need to get people involved. We've not really publicised the pages yet, but we've got quite a few people liking and sharing it. And I think by putting out more content on there now, it just helped drive a bit of momentum for us. So it's really, you know, after acquiring the barrier, it's phase 2 now, and it's time to kind of drive forward, because we don't want it just sitting there in storage forevermore and just being a pipe dream.
Yeah, and getting it into people's phones and things like that brings it to the fore when they're doing their day-to-day job. They may see a premises that potentially they think that might be okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, tell us. We'll have a look at it.
Instead of having 3 sets of eyes on the lookout, you know, and we have had some people in the club who've, you know, also been keeping them peeled. You know, we'd rather have 300 people looking than three of us doing it, you know, and we'd rather get told of a friend twice than not at all, you know.
It might be a friend of a friend who's looking for a tenant, or it could be anything. You never know. We're always looking. I'm constantly looking. I've got a load of stuff here to go through and look at different things and start putting feelers out for things there now, because it's easier to get viewings, or slightly easier to get viewings again, whereas before there was a bit reluctant to let you go, but now we can start doing that. So, you know, that's really the thing, is to keep that and get some momentum started again and get it pushed forward a bit more.
I think we've tried to, you know, have a comprehensive strategy as well that we're developing, you know, and the branding and the social media is all part of that. You know, when we do find the premises, we want to get the boards and everything in there as soon as we can, and we want to hit the ground running. So, you know, you've kind of got to do some of the legwork at this stage when you've got the time to do that, you know. So we've got some, you know, we've got a logo now, you know, we've got as you say, the social media and stuff, just to get people on board, get people interested. You know, we've set up, you know, bank accounts and various other bits and bobs just to make sure that we are ready to go. I think one of the other things that we're going to do, I'm going to be honest about this, we want to try and do a bit of fundraising. So the social media might help us do that. You know, we've got some t-shirts and things that we're going to look to try and sell, just to raise a little bit of money, just to help us, you know, do the groundwork to get there. I think you know, we've all put some money in personally. We're happy to do that because, you know, it's a sport that we love, and we want to support it. But, you know, we're not millionaires. you know, the money isn't going to last forever. So, you know, we do need to be looking at ways that we can generate income, and potentially by having this sort of media presence, you know, we are going to be able to spark some interest. You know, we have spoken to people locally that we think might be able to help. We had a pretty good meeting at the end of last year with Alex Norris, who's the MP in the local area where Southglade is. And he seemed genuinely interested in what we were doing, genuinely interested in the sport. Unfortunately, a couple of weeks after we spoke to him, there was a snap general election, and then COVID came along, which has taken up his attention quite a bit over the last few months, I can imagine. But, you know, it's people like that you know, we need to be sort of tapping into. And by having a social media presence, it potentially means that rather than us just going out and approaching those people might find out about us, and they may come to us.
Yeah.
I think that's brilliant. And sort of the public, like getting other people involved is such a key thing going forward. I think that's really useful.
But once people like the council see the weight behind the sport, they then might put a little bit more gravitas towards it as well, because they see it's a popular thing that benefits the whole of Nottinghamshire. And there's players not just from where we play, but, you know, from countrywide. It just helps with all of that. So that's another good reason for it, really, as well.
I think that's brilliant. So what sort of locations are we looking at, whether you want to put a feeder out now to people who might know of somewhere or know someone who might know somewhere? What's the sort of the criteria that we'd be looking at going forward?
I think our wheelhouse, you know, is the sort of, well, we currently play out of Bestwood, so the sort of Bestwood, Bulwell, Baseford neck of the woods, and I think that we've got a lot of players who are from the Gedling Borough kind of area. So I'd say that part of the city, Bestwood, Bulwell, Baseford, and Gedling Borough is probably our ideal. I think Bestwood, Bulwell, Baseford is probably better, because I think it's better connected in terms of travel in and out of the city. So I think that's probably a bit, I'd say that's optimum for us, to be honest. You know, good connections to the M1 would be really handy, but we may not be able to be that choosy about it. But I think, you know, our strength from Wolves' point of view is the amount of people we've already got involved in the game. You know, we've got a lot of members already, and, you know, that powerhouse is really in that area we just talked about, you know, that bit of the city plus Gedling Borough. So I think, you know, going outside of that would be quite difficult, I think, unless, you know, we went a lot.
I mean, it wouldn't be dismissed, but it'd have to be looked at seriously. But yeah, that's as ideal. That's as dream that we get it within them areas. It's going to invariably, that type of building is going to be generally on an industrial estate somewhere, usually. So if not, that would be even better, because you haven't got the restrictions of industrial estates and that sort of thing. But again, you only apply to the council to change the building use classification. So all of them things we could look at doing and getting sorted. But yeah, good road links is probably the key, really. So it opens it up for everybody.
I think it's about ticking certain boxes, isn't it? I mean, you know, that location is definitely one of the boxes we'd like to tick if possible. But it's the type of building. If we got a
single span is key to everything.
Yeah, and if we got a really great building, but it was slightly out of the area that we wanted, well, maybe we'd make a compromise. I mean, and obviously the price is going to be a factor as well.
Yeah.
So they're probably the three main things that we're looking at.
That's all for this evening, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in. I know we've been away for a while, but hopefully there'll be a few more videos coming in the next few weeks. Stay tuned to the Wolves social media pages in the next few weeks, and as we've mentioned tonight, the Rink social media pages, the links to which can be found in the bio below. So yeah, thanks very much, gentlemen.
No problem.
Cheers,
Thanks,
Ben.
Ben.
Thank you.